you to
and pull it up.
How's it going, everybody? If you guys are new to my channel, I 3D print my own fishing lures and then post the files for free so you guys can make them yourselves. Now, if you couldn't guess off of today's intro, we're making a drop shot lure. We are making the 4¼ inch arrow tail drop shot worm. Now, this is specially made for all your finesse fishing needs. I packed as much action as I possibly could into this little lure. We'll go over a little later in the video on how I made this lure and how I gave it the action it needs and why I made the body the way I did. But for now, just the basics. So this lure was specifically intended for drop shotting, but being a finesse lure, it has a couple different applications. You could just as easily stick this in a Ned rig and fish it that way. It should work just as well. So to make this lure, I just hopped in the Fusion 360 and drew out the side profile. Then I used the revolve tool to make it into a full body. I made the little triangle tail, added that on, and threw it in a mold box. I'm very happy with the way this came out, and this also adds a couple new styles of fishing to my 3D printed lure arsenal that I haven't had before. If you want to print this mold out yourself, it can be printed on an FDM or resin printer. This was printed on my Ender 6 out of a polycarbonate PETG blend. If you're using a resin printer, I recommend using Ceratec Sculpt. With all that out of the way, I won't keep you guys waiting any longer. Let's see this mold in action. So we have our drop shot worm mold. I printed this out on my Ender 6. It came out pretty nice. I did inject it once before. Came out fine, but this is taking me a little longer than anticipated. I printed this out quite a while ago. But it's a new year, which means new stuff. So let's go over that. First off, new year, new plastic. Now that we're making some finesse stuff, we need some finesse plastics. So this is the softest plastic they make. I figured it'd be nice to change up the brand rather than using one the whole time, you know, give people a different variety and hopefully form my own opinion so I can better steer you guys in the right direction. I have used Bathe Plastic salt water, but that's super hard. And we'll see how this one works. So we're going to mix this up. Now the coolest part about this plastic is the bottle fits this special mixer adapter. So rather than shake up the bottle and make a bunch of bubbles, we can just mix it up slowly that way. So we're going to heat this up, make some new colors, and bolt this mold together. So we also picked up some new dyes and colorant. Since the last time I bought plastic dye from them, they've added what's called color shifts. So these should be color changing dyes. They transition between two colors. So we're going to try their blue craw. That looks good. I don't know how well it appears on the knife and the camera, but in person it shifts between like a brownish and a bluish. And they also have this new dead shift flake. That's supposed to be a pretty cool color transition. There's glitter floating around here now. We're going to add a pinch of this and see what that does. So this looks very nice, all mixed up in the jar. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but it's a pretty cool color. I think it's going to look a lot better when it's not as saturated inside an actual bait. So we're going to let this cool down a bit and inject our mold. So we should be cooled down enough. And let's see how this works out. We'll hold our pressure there for a bit. Top her off. And I will see you guys when this is ready to demold. Alright, so while that is cooling down, we're going to test out our another color we're going to make. See if that's cooked. Should be. Sorry you guys can't see that. Alright, so that's cooked for sure. So we are using the Dead Shifts Metal Mist. This is like a purpley color, so we'll mix that up. Like I said before, I don't know how these are going to look when they're this thick. I think it'll look a lot nicer when it's more translucent inside a lure body that's a lot thinner. So that looks pretty good to me. And for flaky stuff, we're using the Dead On color shift again. This is the Argon. Literally, as soon as I open these up, I can see the flakes floating up in the light. Alright, so that's looking pretty darn nice. I'm really excited to see how these baits turn out. I think my color quality is going to improve quite a bit after all these new colors I got. Should look a lot nicer. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but that looks very nice to me. Not too bad at all. This is what the green crawl thing looked like in the container for the first batch. Alright, so we'll crack this bad boy open and see how it looks. That looks pretty darn good to me so far. Let's see, better angle. I'm trying to work on my camera angles. I know they're horrible. It's not my strong suit, and trying to get a good view of these for you guys is obviously the most important thing about bait making. Like, if you don't know how they look, what's the point in making them? So we'll pull these out now. So this is our final result. They came out very nice for these. It's kind of hard on camera to get the full beauty of these baits, but that flake looks awesome in here. It came out really nice. So I'm going to clean these up a little bit. They went out the vent holes a little bit. So I'm going to get these all set up. I'm going to put the mold back together, and we're going to inject our purplish color and see how that came out. So I figured now would be a really good time to go over my philosophy for this lure. Now, being a drop shot, the whole point of this is to be able to stick it in one spot and be able to fish the same spot for a long period of time. You know, you throw a lure in that area and it's only in there for a second, fraction of a second. This, you can leave it in the same spot. Now, the only downside to that is something like a paddle tail has a lot of action when it's swimming. A normal worm just sitting still isn't really going to have a lot of action. That's where this bait design comes in handy. We're going to use a lighter scale just so you guys can see how big this is. I'm sorry in advance for the horrible camera angle, and this lure is not looking as nice as it does in real life, I'm sure, on camera. When it starts out with a nice fat body so you can get the hook through it, and then we taper down to here, and at this point we use the ribs. What the ribs do is they increase the size of the body without affecting the action. So it looks bigger than it is, and the actual diameter of the lure is smaller, so it helps that tail have a really nice kick to it. The ribs are really small, it's kind of hard to see. And we taper back down to this arrow tail. Now this is the arrow tail worm. The reason for that is this big heavy arrow with the weight and the drag is going to create a ton of action on this tail and help this flutter back and forth when it's in the water, especially with this super soft plastisol. Alright, so I threw in a lot more dye in this batch. Should look a lot nicer. We'll try that one more time. That looks good. Alright, so we'll see when V2 cools off. Alright, it's been a while. We'll crack this open and see how it looks. And by a while, I mean since last night. They're not bad at all. I'm going to try to show these better. Alright, so I'm going to try to show this off as best as I can. Like I said, my camera is not the greatest in the world, that's for sure. This is a watermelon color that I've been using in my videos in the past. I did that to test this mold off camera. This is that Dead Shift's Metal Mist, and that's the Blue Craw. Now these colors do change depending on the angle and the sunlight. I'm going to try to show that off as best as I can here. But in person, there's a notable difference for sure. The edges are a different color than the center. And when it's in the water column turning in the light, it's going to have like a shimmery effect too to it. So I got no complaints about it. This drop shot worm came out just how I wanted it. Of course, as always, this model is going to be available for download free in the description below if you want to make it. And if you have any suggestions on what I should make next, feel free to leave a comment down below. Now, you guys could click away from this video now, or you could check out one of my other awesome videos and get another free lure to make. That's it. Thank you guys for watching.